The Rangers lose 3-1 to the Carolina Hurricanes. We talk about why the power play is an absolute mess and how the Rangers can best attempt to fix it. Plus, Matt Rempe is suspended for 8 games, fair or foul.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1210 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you will get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Rangers, in a game that you could basically just file under same bleep different day, they lose 3-1 to the Carolina Hurricanes. A fast start in this game for the Rangers. I thought they had a fantastic first period, fantastic might be pushing it a little bit, but compared to the vast majority of the level of hockey that the Rangers have been playing lately, I think comparatively, yeah, that was a fantastic start to this game for the Rangers. They get the goal by VZ, 17 seconds of the action. And then, second period, they just kind of stopped competing, get outworked by the Canes for pretty much the rest of the day. Igor Shesterkin keeps them in the game, makes a couple of spectacular saves, gives them every opportunity possible to come back in this game. And the Rangers just, of course, weren't able to do it. I mean, it's getting to the point you could basically set your watch the types of things that are going to happen in a Ranger game. And I'm, in fact, going to elaborate on that in just a little bit here. But the first thing I want to talk about is why it is time for the Rangers to switch up their power play when it comes to approach and when it comes to personnel, both. So we're going to get into that. Let me just pause for one quick second, though. Gotta apologize for my voice here today. I am fighting off something right now. It just wouldn't be the holiday season if this didn't happen. I swear, this has got to be at least the third straight season on Locked On Rangers that we're going to go through this. But talk a little quieter, maybe a little slower. We'll see how it goes here. But the bottom line, look, the Rangers, their power play just sucks right now. Basically, you could say the same thing for just about every single other aspect of this team. Now, I will acknowledge first and foremost here that the Carolina Hurricanes have a great penalty kill. That's been kind of a calling card of them over the last handful of seasons here. They are number 3 in the league right now at 86.1%. So obviously it was always going to be a tough task for the Rangers to kind of crack that code here today. But you look at the approach that the Rangers bring to a game like this against the Canes, specifically when the Rangers are on the power play, and the approach is just all wrong. To begin with, the Rangers went 0 for 4 on the power play, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The biggest problem that I saw with the Rangers on the power play, other than the questionable compete level that we saw from certain players on that top power play unit, is that they kept trying to do the same thing, and it just wasn't working, and it wasn't going to suddenly start working. If you watch the Rangers on the power play, when they were bringing the puck up the ice through the neutral zone, they kept trying to just basically skate through everybody, get right through this giant wall of Carolina Hurricanes players, because when you watch the Canes on the PK, they basically do the same thing every time. They line up all 4 guys just directly across the blue line, and they basically dare you to try to take them, to just go one-on-one with them and try to basically break through that wall there. The Rangers kept trying to do that with no success. Every time the Rangers would try to get through the blue line that way, they would get knocked off the puck would get poked away from them, back into the neutral zone. Nothing good ever happened when they went with this approach, and yet they just kept doing it and doing it. At some point, if you're the Rangers here, you have to see what the Canes are doing. I mean, you should kind of know this is going to be their approach because you see this team so often. But at a certain point, you got to chip the puck into the zone. You got to shoot the puck deep and go in and get it and go fight for the puck along the boards. The problem there is that the Rangers, they don't have the mindset to do that. I mean, forget about it, at the very least, just being not stubborn enough to try this. That's step number 1. But even if you get around that, even if you give this a shot, you look at the Ranger personnel on this top power play unit, these are not guys that are going to go in there and start fighting like dogs on the board to win these puck battles. I mean, do you really think at this point, based on everything we've seen this season, that Mika Zibanejad is going to go into the attacking zone on the power play with some aggression and win a 50-50 puck against somebody like Jacob Slavin? Do you really think that like Chris Kreider right now is going to go toe-to-toe with Brent Burns and dig the puck out of the corner and win the puck for the Rangers that way? I mean, that's just not going to happen. So as far as I'm concerned, And then this really came to fruition watching the Ranger power play in action in this game. But looking at it now, it feels like the Rangers were basically 0 for the day on the power play before this game even started, because the Canes had the perfect approach, just stacking your players across the blue line there, not allowing the Rangers to get entry, forcing them to go east and west, getting the puck away from them, and knowing that the Rangers weren't going to dump the puck deep. And even if they did, the Canes probably were very likely going to win those puck battles. So, yeah, the approach was all wrong, especially for this opponent that the Rangers were going up against in this game. And you look at the 4 power plays for the Rangers on this day, they end up with a total of only 4 shots on goal. And we talked about the approach. Now it's time to talk about the personnel as it pertains to the Ranger power play unit. At a certain point, you got to switch things up a little bit here. It's time for a couple of these guys on the top power play unit to move down to the second power play unit and vice versa. Because at a certain point, how much worse can it get? So here's the changes that I'm going to make if it's up to me. And obviously it is not. But you got to give me Will Cooley on the top power play unit. That, at this point, is non-negotiable. He has been far and away the best player on the New York Rangers this season, I would say. And certainly, if not the best player, then absolutely the most improved player. And honestly, you look at this entire roster, top to bottom, left to right, front to back, any way you want to look at it, it's starting to look to me that Will Cooley is the only player on this team that is playing at a higher level this season than he did last season. Now, with Cooley, it's to be expected. He was a rookie last year, had a solid rookie season, but you were obviously hopeful that he could build on that. He's done exactly that. Every other player on this Ranger team has taken a step backwards. Every other player on this Ranger team is giving you less this season than what you got from them last season. And I think that's honestly without any exceptions whatsoever. You can't count somebody like Brett Berard. He's a rookie. He didn't even play last year. Adam Edstrom, I mean, he was up for like 10 games last season. I don't think we can really count him either. There's not much, man. And then there's a couple new guys. Sam Carrick's obviously new. We got these new defensemen now, too. Everybody that was on this team last year has taken a step back except for Will Cooley. So you got to give me, if for no other reason than to just reward his solid play, you got to give me Will Cooley on this top power play unit. And I'm also going to say Lafreniere. I know he hasn't been great lately either, but the bottom line, at a certain point, it's just somebody else's turn. So give me Cooley and give me Lafreniere in place of, let's just say, Mika and Kreider on the top power play unit. You could drop those two down to the second unit. At a certain point, it's just time to give somebody else a chance. You have to try something different. I have the number in front of me somewhere here. I want to say the Rangers at this point are like 1 for their last 23 on the power play. That's what it is. Last 9 games, the Rangers are 1 for their last 23. So if this isn't the time to shake things up a little bit, then I don't know what is. And you can talk about, they were close. They hit the post in this game. They came close to scoring a couple of times in that game. Fine. You know what? If you want to use that as an excuse to keep these units together, if you're Peter Laviolette, then go ahead. But the bottom line, you watch this game here today, they didn't even come close to scoring. I don't think a single time on the power play. It's another offer, and it's just time for somebody else to get a chance. Now, there was something interesting that happened near the end of this game in regards to the Ranger power play that I'm going to talk about right now. So the Rangers, one of their few, solid. I guess they picked it up a little bit in the third period. The second period was so bad, though, that anything was going to look good by comparison. But you've got, Lafreniere. This is before the power play. He's faking out his guy. He passes in deep to Trocheck looking for the tip-in. The puck stays out. There's a penalty on the Canes. And then the Rangers are on the power play. And it was interesting because it was Adam Fox and the second unit. And my eyebrows kind of went up when this happened. It makes sense when you think about it, though, because the line that was on the ice for the Rangers right before this happened was Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. Panarin and Trocheck are obviously part of the top power play unit. They had kind of a long shift, so maybe the feeling there was that they weren't going to also then start the power play. So those two, Panarin and Trocheck, were not available. But, Mika and Kreider were available. And instead of going with like a hybrid as far as like, a hybrid of the top power play unit and the second power play unit, the Rangers just chose to go with the second power play unit, except the one exception was that Adam Fox is out there with them rather than Braden Schneider. So the Rangers chose to give Fox his ice time with the guys from the second power play unit. It sounds like Panarin and Trocheck were not available, but Mika and Kreider were available. They did not put them out there, and rightfully so, because those two didn't do anything in this game again, and neither one of them looked good at all when it comes to the power play. So Laviolette was asked about this after the game. He said that he put Fox with the second power play unit because he liked their looks better than the first power play unit. Okay, so that's a step in the right direction. In the next game, we'll give, and that's tomorrow, by the way. In the next game, we'll give this top power play unit the first chance, right? Rangers get their first power play of the game. Give me the same 5 guys that have already been out there. You get one chance. You get one shot at this. If this power play unit, I'm not saying they have to score. That would be nice. I'm not saying they have to score, though, but they got to show something. They got to create some scoring chances. They got to put the puck at the net and stop with this BS perimeter passing that they just like to do, until the clock runs out on the power play. So that's what's got to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then the second power play unit is now your first power play unit for the rest of the game tomorrow. So they're on the clock as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, we can turn the page to some different issues. In fact, an entire list of issues that the Rangers face in this game. Basically, what we're going to do next is we're just going to, it's not a ranking or anything like that, but we're just going to list some of the issues that the Rangers have had basically all season that were all very much on display in this game. We will do that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by PrizePicks. If you love sports, you're going to love PrizePicks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30 million+ in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is right, $50 instantly. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, big shout out to the everydayers as always. Thank you guys as always for tuning in. In our next episode of Locked On Rangers, going to be doing a crossover show with Erica Ayala of Locked On Seattle Kraken. Going to be talking about the recent trade between the Rangers and the Kraken. But for right now, let's go ahead and talk about, again, these same issues that have plagued this team all season, or the vast majority of the season at least, that were also a problem in this game here today. For starters, this one's been standing out to me more and more recently. The Rangers appear completely incapable of playing a full 60 minutes of hockey. And when I say full 60 minutes, this is something that I've explained in the past what I mean by this. If you've heard this before, just bear with me for a second. If you're new here, here's what I mean when I say a full 60 minutes of hockey. Does not mean complete and utter domination of your opponent for the entire hockey game, okay? There might be times where they get a little bit of a pushback. There might be times where your opponent has the edge in play, especially against a quality team like the Canes. I can understand that. But a complete 60 minutes of hockey means you're engaged, you're competitive, you're battling. The Rangers can't do that. The Rangers just can't figure out a way to just go out there and play a complete 60 minutes of hockey. So that's been a problem. It was a problem in this one. In this game, they got off to a fast start, and then it fizzled out badly in the second period. Maybe picked it up just a little bit in the third period, where you could at least maybe convince yourself that the game-time goal was going to be on the way. The second period was just awful, and you're not going to get away with that against most of the teams in this league, and certainly not against a team like the Carolina Hurricanes. And the funny thing about all this is the most recent game before this, the game against the Stars, it was the opposite. Terrible start. They picked it up as it went. Why can this team not get it together for a full 60 minutes of hockey? They just seem completely incapable of doing it. Another issue that's been an issue all season, and certainly was in this game here today, the over-reliance on Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick. They just think that their goalies are going to have their breakdancing skates on every single game and just bail them out of any mistakes or any lethargic play that they have. Igor in this game made 28 saves on 30 shots. Still wasn't enough. He only lets 2 goals get by him, and made some fantastic saves in this game as well. A couple of glove saves, a couple of those saves where the opponents are kind of like looking up to the rafters and maybe watching the replay or just in disbelief that they didn't score. Again, just a complete over-reliance on the goalie. Igor stole the win against the Stars, was not able to do the same thing here against the Canes. But, Igor, I guess that's one of the good news things out of these last 2 games here. The Rangers obviously have not played well enough. I mean, I think that pretty much goes without saying, but it does seem like Igor is starting to find his A game, and hey, maybe he can carry them to a playoff spot. Yeah, we shall see. Another issue with this team in this game, and certainly recently, too many penalties, and to an even greater extent, too many completely unnecessary penalties. Now, the Ranger PK has been very good. We saw the Stars go 0 for 7. They had the 5-minute major to work with. They couldn't even score then. In this game, it was sort of the same. The Canes got 5 power play opportunities. They only scored on 1 of them. But, you can't keep putting yourself in this kind of a situation, especially when you're going up against good teams. I don't care how good of a PK unit you've got. Eventually, they're going to get beat, and that happened here. The Canes had a double minor. They scored in the final 4 or 5 seconds of said double minor when Jack Roslovic, of all people, scores on a tip-in from the doorstep. That ends up being the game winner because, of course, it was. Look, the Rangers, that's about the only thing that they do well right now. That's the only strength of this team is the penalty kill. Right now, they are tops in the league at 87.6%. And what a waste that is. Usually when you've got a really good team and a team that's a bona fide Stanley Cup contender, you can typically point at the PK and know that that's going to be a strength. And obviously, right now, that's a strength for the Rangers, but the Rangers are not a good hockey team right now. That's literally the only thing that this team is doing well. They're killing penalties until they don't because they take too many stupid, unnecessary penalties, put themselves in a bad spot, and end up, surrendering what turns out to be the game-winning goal to Jack Roslovic here. Another big problem all season for this team, and certainly in this game as well, just the overall lack of competitive fire by the supposed leaders of this Ranger team. The Mika Zibanejad at post-game pressers are just unbearable to watch. If anybody has watched these on MSG, on social media, whatever it might be, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. There's just nothing there. It's so frustrating. Mika, I'm begging you, dude, just one time put a little bit of oomph into your voice, because when I come on here and I sound more fired up about this loss than Mika Zibanejad does, and when you guys voice your opinions on social media or anything that you do, talking to your friends or posting a video and putting it online, whatever it might be, the bottom line, when fans of this team, one way or another, are more intense, more fired up, more passionate about what happened in a Ranger loss than one of the leaders on this team, somebody that was on the short list to be the next Ranger captain the last time they had a captain vacancy, that's really a problem. And Mika Zibanejad might care more than we give him credit for. It's hard to know for sure. I mean, we don't know him personally. But when that's your response, when you come out and you just talk very softly in these post-game pressers and you just have this kind of deer to headlights kind of a look, what kind of leadership is that, man? And it's not just Mika, it's all the leaders. This team is sorely lacking in leadership right now. Just a lack of competitive fire from these guys. I don't think that's unfair to say at this point. Another thing that's been an issue all season and an issue in this game as well, the top six consistently and thoroughly being outplayed by the Rangers' bottom six. This has happened more times than we can count this season. It's honestly getting to the point where it's becoming the norm. And honestly, today, it was really just the fourth line. The fourth line was the Rangers' best line, not just because of the VZ goal. That was great, but they were at least working hard. They were in there on the forecheck. They were playing some physical hockey. They were creating some scoring chances. It's funny because, late in this game, the Ranger fourth line was getting some shifts, and this isn't a game where the Rangers are down by a goal and needing the equalizer. You had Edstrom, Carrick, and VZ on the ice with less than 6 minutes to go, and they had a pretty good shift, and then they head to the bench. I'm thinking, well, that's probably the last that we're going to see of these guys in this game. But then there was a face-off with less than 3 minutes to go. Laviolette put the fourth line back on the ice, and I don't fault him for it. That's the craziest thing about this. You can nitpick things about Peter Laviolette. I think his stubbornness to change the top power play unit is getting more and more frustrating by the day. Him putting the fourth line on the ice here, it was completely justified. And honestly, I would say the right thing to do, because nobody else is creating any scoring chances. These guys were. They went out there, again, less than 3 minutes to go. The puck goes out of play, or I think it might have been an offside with 2 minutes and 33 seconds to go in the game. So at this point, they're probably coming off the ice, and that's what happened. And what do? They put the same six guys on the ice that are always on the ice when the Rangers pull their goalie. They're not gonna do anything different in this situation. They're just not. I mean, and this led to absolutely nothing. They pull the goalie. Panarin whips a pass to Adam Fox. He receives the pass out of the zone, so they pass themselves right out of the zone. They eventually get it back in. The Canes steal the puck because it went right by Adam Fox along the boards there, and they go away on a 2-on-1, do the Canes with an empty net, and they're able to score. Aho to be specific. But yeah, 3-1 now with 1:42 to go. Once again, the Rangers pulling their goalie too early. But the bigger issue to me is that you continue to go with the same six players here. These six players, and it's the top power play unit plus Lafreniere, these six players have not come close to scoring a game-tying goal with the goalie pulled all season, and they just keep doing it. How do you, at a certain point, not go with Will Cooley in this situation? Brett Berard, I'd like to see him out there in a spot like this as well. He's negotiable because you could say, well, he's a rookie. He just got here, all this other stuff. But you don't go with Will Cooley and you don't go with Philip Hedl. Not that Hedl was like great in this game, but I think he's been one of the better and more consistent Ranger forwards this season. How do you not just try something different at a certain point? These guys aren't even close. There was nothing even resembling a half-decent scoring chance once this goalie was pulled here. And that's been the norm all season. There has not been a single time that the Rangers have pulled their goalie this season and you get that moment where you think the game-tying goal is coming and you're ready to jump out of your seat. It doesn't happen because these 6 guys aren't making it happen. So finally, it's time to give somebody else a chance. They're not doing it. I don't think they're going to do it. But there you go. I've said my piece as far as that is concerned. It's something needs to change in that situation, but it's not going to change. So it is what it is. Going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to shift our attention to the 8-game suspension handed out to Matt Rempe. We'll talk about whether that was fair or not. We're also going to give Kaapo Kakko his flowers here. He obviously is now an ex-Ranger. He's played a couple games with the Kraken already, but as we always do, when somebody departs the Rangers after being here for a while, going to go through a couple of his best moments as a member of this team. We will do that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much, much more. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so let's talk about some of Kaapo Kakko's best moments as a member of the Rangers. Here's the thing. I could keep bashing the Rangers right now. I can bury their superstar players even more than I already have over the last handful of episodes here. We did a little bit of that in the last section. You know what, though? It's the holiday season. I'm in a giving mood. I'm going to, before I really go all in on these guys, the superstar players, the guys that wear the letters, the guys that are supposed to be leading the way for this team, we're going to give them a chance to redeem themselves in the next game here on Monday afternoon against the New Jersey Devils. I'm not really holding my breath that they're going to do it, but I would love to be proven wrong. So let's give them another chance. If they, fail to do any of that, and if the Rangers lose again, then, the gloves are going to come off in the next episode of Locked On Rangers. I can promise you that. But for right now, let's shift our attention. Let's do something nice here. Kaapo Kakko obviously traded away to the Seattle Kraken. Just wanted to go through a couple of his better moments as a member of the Rangers. This one that I'm going to start with feels like a lifetime ago, but Kaapo Kakko as a rookie scoring an overtime game winner against the Penguins. We had Henrik Lundqvist making a save against Evgeny Malkin, and just even the thought of that tells you how long ago this was, and just kind of has a surreal feeling to it, like Henrik Lundqvist and Kaapo Kakko as teammates. There was just a little bit of overlap there. But, you had Lundqvist making a save against Malkin. The Rangers go the other way. Adam Fox is a rookie this season as well. He gets the blue line up the left side, veers to his right, passes back to his left to Kaapo Kakko, and Kakko tips it in for the game winner. His most recent goal and what turned out to be his final goal as a member of the New York Rangers. This was 3 weeks ago against Montreal. The Rangers blew a 2-goal lead in the third period. They end up scoring the game winner. Kaapo Kakko gets the game winner with 22 seconds to go. He got a feed from Will Cooley on the power play and was able to stuff it home. I tweeted out at the time when Kakko did this that he may have legitimately saved some people from getting fired and or traded. The completely ironic thing is that not even a month later, Kaapo Kakko now finds himself traded to the Seattle Kraken. But obviously that was a big goal at the time. It stopped the Rangers. I believe it was a 5-game losing streak. Not that things have really been that much better since then, but at least they got a much-needed win in that instance. Playoff moment. He assisted on what turned out to be a huge goal in Game 5 against the Penguins. Rangers were down 3-1. They were down 2-1 in this game. Fox had just scored a goal in the second period to get the Rangers back into it. And then just a minute and 30 seconds later, Kakko is behind the net. He kind of faked coming out one side of the net, went to the other side of the net, comes in front, passes across the top of the crease to Lafreniere, and Lafreniere buries it. And that tied the score at 2-2. Rangers went on to win that game. I believe the final score was 5-3, but a big-time primary assist for Kaapo Kakko there. Anytime you talk about big moments with the kid line, I think this is one that always comes up. The kid line shift, conference final that same season against Tampa Bay, Game 1. Rangers are up 3-2 in the game. this shift just went on and on and on. I mean, well over a minute in Tampa's zone, and a couple of instances where the Lightning had a chance to clear. The Rangers just would not let them do it. The puck recovery was fantastic. Kakko almost scored during this possession. He had a chance from the high slot, whipped it wide. But, the Rangers kept fighting for it. They kept battling for the puck, and you had that call there from ESPN. The kid line growing up before our eyes. And then, of course, Miller eventually finds Philip Hedl for the goal. But Kakko was right in the middle of all that, keeping that possession alive there and scoring or helping the Rangers score a big goal. And this one, to me, is Kaapo Kakko's top moment. It's not a flashy play. It's not a play that he even ends up on the score sheet, but it's actually the most recent playoff win that the Rangers had. This is Game 3 against the Panthers. Series is 1-1. We're tied 4-4 in overtime. The Rangers gave away a 2-goal lead in the third period. Overtime's progressing here. We're battling. Igor's making all these saves. And there's a face-off in the Panthers zone. And Wenberg's taking the face-off. He sort of wins the puck, but Kakko and Roslovic both got in there, both fighting for the puck very diligently. And then it eventually goes along the boards, and Kakko is able to lift the stick of his opponent. That allows the Rangers to take control of it. Roslovic then pass it back to Lindgren. Lindgren takes a shot, deflects off of Wenberg, and into the net. And that gave the Rangers the win and a 2-1 series lead. The unfortunate part about all that is that, obviously that was the last win of the Rangers season, but that was a huge play by Kakko there. If that doesn't happen, who knows how that game progresses. And at the moment, at least, it was awesome. Rangers took a 2-1 lead in the conference final. Something that's crazy about that play, though, this was only, June, I think this happened. I think we were into June. So this is only about 6 months ago. And you're in a situation now where 4 of the 5 players that were on the ice for this goal could be ex-Rangers by the time we get to the trade deadline. 3 of them already are. Now, Roslovic and Wenberg, it's not surprising. They were both rentals, and I don't think people were really looking for the Rangers to re-sign either of those players. But Kakko's been traded. There's a very good chance Lindgren's going to be traded. Adam Fox is out there. I mean, I think he'll be here past the trade deadline, but he might be the only one. So that's pretty crazy when you think about it. But yeah, all the best to Kaapo Kakko in Seattle. Hope things go well for him there. He gets the fresh start that it sounds like he was hoping for. And yeah, all the best to him for sure. Also wanted to mention the Matt Rempe suspension before we call it a day here. He had his hearing actually a little bit earlier today. He was offered an in-person hearing. He ended up doing the Zoom call deal. They had to have known that he was getting suspended because he was not eligible to play in this game here against the Canes. My understanding is that however many game suspension they give to Matt Rempe, this game here against the Canes would count as one of them, but they end up giving him 8 games, so it's 1 down, 7 to go, if that is to be believed. And there were Ranger beat reporters who were tweeting that out, so I'll take their word for it. So it sounds like 8-game suspension, 1 down, 7 to go. It feels like a lot to me. I mean, I think for sure a suspension is warranted here. I mean, I don't know. You look at his most recent suspension, and that factors in here too, because he is now qualified as a repeat offender, given that the last suspension happened within the last 18 months. But he got 4 games for that hit against the Devils. You figured it was going to be more this time. I'm thinking like, okay, maybe 5 or 6. They end up going with 8 games. That feels like a lot. It does feel like Matt Rempe at times is being targeted by this league, but at the same time, he's got to get this nonsense out of his game. He's now, a lot of people are throwing this stat around. I think it's like 22 career regular season games for Rempe, and he's been kicked out of 4 of them. Now, one of them was that 5-on-5 fight against the Devils where, they kicked out 8 players because, they were all the other fights started after the one fight happened. So 8 players get ejected. I don't know if we can really count that one against Rempe, but the bottom line is, this guy toes the line constantly and crosses it occasionally. And I think that, I can't go crazy about him getting suspended for this. It is what it is. And one other kind of interesting note from this is that my understanding here is that if Rempe is to get sent down to the minors at any time here, it essentially would pause his suspension. So he has to be on the NHL roster for his suspension to progress. Like if they were to send him down to the AHL before this game against the Devils tomorrow, whenever he gets called back up, he still has 7 games that he's suspended that he has to sit out. So that's a difficult situation in and of itself, but it's one that, honestly is mostly the making of Matt Rempe. Again, I think 8 is a little harsh. That's a little extreme, but bottom line, yeah, I mean, I think we all knew the suspension was coming. And again, the NHL is trying to get that kind of stuff out of the game. I can't fault them for that. My only request from the NHL is to be more consistent with it, because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of consistency. You'll see a hit that doesn't look that bad or looks, kind of bad, but they end up throwing the book at them, kind of like this situation. Again, I think a suspension was warranted, but 8 games was pretty extreme. Then you'll see things happen where, something kind of crazy happens. Tom Wilson a few years ago, and he doesn't get suspended at all. I mean, it just feels like they're all over the place when it comes to, the punishment for these players. So just a little more consistently would certainly be nice. But figure we can go out there. Thank you guys again for sticking out with me and my voice. I'm going to work through this and do my best to get it back to 100% for you guys. But as always, thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well at LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.